Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Arham. So here I will make a video about reviewing the five period in history of English literature subject. Okay, and already I am already type it on my other phone. So there are five period here. The first time is Old English, and second was medieval era, Renaissance and Reformation era, Revolution and Restoration era, and the last one is 18th century. So here for reviewing, there are three. There are three subjects. The first time is timeline of period, characteristic of period, and the significant authors and works in the period. So I will start from the first Old English. Okay, the timeline of period. Old English was not static, and its usage covered a period of 700 years, from the Anglo-Saxon settlement of Britain in the 5th century to the late 11th century, sometime after the Norman invasion. And the characteristic of Old English. There are two characteristics here: alliterative pattern and the use of cannings. Old English poetry is characterized by the use of alliteration, following what is referred to as the alliterative pattern. This pattern is a hallmark of Old Norse and Old Germanic poetic traditions. And a canon is a kind of representation wherein an idea is passed on by a compound of two words. Okay, authors and works in Old English. In this section, I only take one in author and work side, but probably them could be the greatest of the period. So the first known Old English poet was Cadwin, a resident of Whitby Abbey. For the work, I take the only one 9-line poem that has survived and is called the Cadman Hymn. This text is also the oldest written text in the English literature. Okay, next we move to the medieval era. Okay, medieval era, the timeline of period. The period of European history extending from about 500 to 1400 to 1500 CE is traditionally known as the Middle Ages or medieval era. The characteristic of period. It was characterized by generating works that were mostly by unknown authors, which covered topics related to morals and religion, chivalry, stories, religious texts, among others. It was initially written in Latin and later in the national languages of some countries. Okay, the significant author and work in the period. I will take Marjorie Campe and his book that started around 1432 and finished on 1436. Okay, next we move to the Renaissance and Reformation era. Okay, the timeline of Renaissance and Reformation era. Renaissance was began in the 1300 in Italy and spread throughout Europe by the 1600. And the movement began in the city of Florence, which is influenced by Greek philosophies of humanism. And by the way, Florence was in Italy. Okay, characteristics of period. Economics, science, politics, and social was controlled by the church. The upper middle class or the bourgeois rise up, and the open mindset of people are one of the factors that caused the Renaissance to occur. Also, the rising desire of kings to rule the country without the interference of the church. Okay, the significant author and work in Renaissance and Reformation era. For his part, I'm going to take Da Vinci with his works, the Mona Lisa. Okay, next we move to the Revolution and Restoration era. Okay, the timeline of period. The 17th century was one of the most tempestuous periods in English history, and Revolution and Restoration era was happening on this century. The characteristic of period. One of the confusion, one of the confusion, one of the confusion in literature due to the breaking up of the old ideals. Literature in the Puritan age expressed sadness. Romantic ardor cannot be found in the literature of the Puritan. The main literary form of the poetry was poetry. The significant author and work in this period. John Milton and his work, The Indomitable Revolutionary Spirit, found its noblest expression. Okay, the last one, the last period that we are going to review here is 18th century. The timeline of 18th century. This era was absolutely happened in 18th century. The characteristic of period. Classical age, epoch of peace and prosperity during this century, the age of reason, human nature, and the age of satire. The significant author and work in the period. Okay, in this part, I will take only one and also his work. So the author is Daniel Defoe, and his work was Robinson Crusoe. Okay, I will take this author because he has a genius. He has a genius in journalism in an age before newspapers exist. We know it's really hard to make a journal in in that time because there was no newspaper. Okay, there he is good in journalism in an age before newspaper exists, which can accommodate his kind of material. So yeah, that's all of 5 period that I review. So there are uh, Old English and medieval era and Renaissance and Reformation era, Revolution and Restoration era, and 18th century. So uh, in my note, there are several information that are confusing for me in the PPT of my friends, but it's okay because I know that it is hard to work a bit. And yeah, that's all from me. I hope you understand and enjoy this video because there are several problems that are exist in this video, like my pronunciation, my word chosen, and yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.